Hello, hello, it's Charmaine Hammond here, and we are here with the follow-up webinar to the HR Reporter webinar that I did a few weeks ago. So welcome back. We had a great time talking about team charters and building teams by design. And today's topic, I'm going to cover two elements that I promised I would go deeper on. One of those is building a team charter, and the second is to understand the review and learn process so that you can use this in any of your HR systems and processes. Let's start with the team charter. All right, creating a team charter. Team charters are really an agreement about how we work together better. That's the way I like to describe it, how we work together better. And the beautiful part of a team charter is that it's created by the team, for the team, with the team collaboratively. So this is not a top-down driven process where a leader creates the team charter and gets buy-in. This is a team charter where the leader is an equal participant in the process, building the charter with the team that he or she leads. Why do they work? Because people build them together. That's the key. What goes in a team charter is one of the questions I always get. Here's the best way to understand this working together better team charter. It describes how the team is going to work together. So team charters cover elements like how we'll deal with conflict. What do we expect of each other in feedback situations? How we build and maintain resiliency in the team. How decisions are made. What type of planning processes will we use? How do we capitalize on one another's strengths? How do we ensure that new people coming into the team are educated and oriented to the review and learn process, to the team charter? And then how often do we review that? Now, the team charter is, once it's built, it becomes a document. And there's many ways that teams have created this document. One of the obvious is a Word document that just becomes a tool, a resource. Sometimes companies put it with their policy manual. Often organizations and companies put it with their orientation program. What I think is really, really valuable is to actually create the team charter in a way that's visible to people all day long. How do you do this? One of my clients created this beautiful piece of art. They actually had an artist on the team, and they created a probably about an 8.5 by 11 size statement, and it basically covered all of their charter, which was about, I think, about 3.5 pages long of a Word document, and they condensed that into 5 key points. Sort of their 5 key commitments to each other. And it was beautifully designed. It was framed. Each of them signed it, and it hangs in the reception area, and everybody got a framed copy for their wall. Now you can imagine 7 years has gone by. They've got lots of signatures of people that are no longer with the organization. They have lots of signatures of people that are new, practicum students. But the valuable piece of this is that it's hanging in a place where everyone can see it, which means that it's a living agreement, a living document. Now, the process of building that living agreement, that living document, is really through a facilitated process. This is where HR and external consultants like myself come in very, very handy. I have learned long ago that to have a leader facilitate the process does not create the buy-in. But HR in a company can be a fantastic support to the leader coming into that team, leading them through the process, the conversations, the building of the charter, and then checking in with them to make sure that it's working. This is one of the things I do as well when I work with teams. I go into the team. We actually have a pre-questionnaire that we do. I just use SurveyMonkey. There's usually between 5 and 7 questions getting at what are the team's strengths, what are they currently doing that's working well around working together better, what do they hope their team charter would include, and then I list off a number of topics: conflict resolution, giving and receiving feedback, managing resilience, building relationships, building the team. So I list off a number of elements and have them either rank them of importance or check off the ones that apply. Then I also ask their feedback around resolving issues and feedback. What is it they expect from one another in these situations, and what are they prepared to give? in these situations. And then I also ask about resilience and their thoughts on reviewing the team charter and orientating new people to the team charter. That's what goes into the questionnaire. I wrap up the results. So I take out anything that is personal, in the sense that it's a complaint about an individual, for example, and make it very generic. And then I provide not a written, but a verbal overview of the themes that emerge. That's actually how I start the review and learn process. And then we work through each area one at a time, looking at the themes, looking at the words that are important to include, creating that statement. And sometimes it's a number of statements. For example, with conflict resolution, there's generally a statement around what the team expects from one another in conflict, how it is they want to be spoken to, how it is they're committing to speak to one another, what the steps are to resolve and address conflict, how people will handle it if they couldn't resolve their conflict together, and what kind of support is available in the community for them to resolve communication problems if they continue to be a challenge. And so you can see that that one is quite a bit longer. And then we read it back. I actually have people take turns reading it back, making sure it resonates, making certain that it covers what people thought they agreed to. And I do that same process for every aspect of the team charter. And then at the end, it's about really clarifying commitment to the charter. And sometimes teams look at doing some kind of a celebratory activity to confirm their charter. I've had people, do the signing of the charter together. I've had people have a celebration. So each team will do what's meaningful to them. But what's important is there needs to be closure to the process, so people know they have a charter and they've agreed to it. Then there needs to be the follow-up to make sure that the charter is working, that people are still committed to it. And one of my clients had a great strategy. He made this a standing agenda item on all of his team meetings. And sometimes the conversation would be, 5 minutes on the charter because there wasn't really anything to update or clarify or add. But the key is that it was always there, which made people feel a higher degree of accountability to the team charter, but also that it didn't feel like it went into this parking lot. You know what I mean by the parking lot? We've all been to those meetings where we say, we'll put it in the parking lot, which means we're going to write it down somewhere and never come back to it usually. So that's what we don't want to have happen. We want to make sure that it's a living, breathing document that people feel excited about being a champion for. Now, the review and learn process, this is a great way to provide an opportunity to evaluate what the process of building a team charter was like. So you can work with your team to go through 4 questions. So the 4 questions are what worked well. The second question is what was a challenge? The third question is what did I learn? And the fourth question is, what will I do differently? Or you can change I to we. What will we do differently? What did we learn? The reason we start with what worked well is it kind of sets the tone for the meeting. If you start with what went wrong, you would be amazed how many complaints come up that aren't even related to the process that you're evaluating. Starting with what worked well sets a framework for that we're wanting to determine both the strengths and the challenges that were covered or dealt with in the process of building a team charter. Now, you don't need to just use a review and learn process in these 4 questions for team charter processes. You can use them for absolutely anything. A new hiring process, the implementation of a new software program, new equipment, somebody leaving on maternity leave and a new replacement coming in. How did that handover process work? The review and learn is really an opportunity to assess and evaluate any processes, changes, or system adjustments in an organization so that we learn from them. The key is we don't want to keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And we've all been there, right? We've all been there where we've implemented a system and 2 years later, we're doing something similar and we make all the same mistakes. So the key is about avoiding what's not working and capitalizing on what is working. That's why the review and learn processes are just so powerful. So again, the team charter is a living, breathing document and agreement that's made by the team, with the team, for the team, to help the team work better together. And the review and learn process is a way of evaluating or assessing changes, processes, projects that have been completed in a workplace to make sure that mistakes are not repeated and to ensure that strengths are capitalized on. This is a lot of the work that I do with teams when I work with my corporate clients. Now, the last piece I wanted to talk about, this is a bonus piece, is resilience. We are living in uncertain times. We're living in times where, oh, the pace is busy. You turn your email on and you feel so popular. You've got so many emails. People expect responses immediately because, of course, we use texting and email, which is a fairly immediate communication tool. And we need to slow things down sometimes in workplaces to help people catch their breath and catch up to what's going on in the workplace. And that's what I mean by resilience. Resilience in my world is the ability to bounce forward after change, challenge, crisis, and adversity. And the whole concept behind bounce forward, which is a term I made up because I quite frankly didn't really like the typical definition of resilience, which was the ability to bounce back. I like bouncing forward, which means after a challenge, we essentially stand up, brush off our knees, and take a step into inspired action. That's what resilience is. Resilience promotes learning, personal growth. Resilience promotes a sense of synergy in a team. So how do we promote resilience at work? How can human resource professionals and leaders reinforce resilience? There's a few key strategies. Number one is to resolve issues quickly. There's a great quote, it's not mine, Judge Esty actually said this, and the quote is, "Conflict is not like wine. It doesn't improve with age." So it means we have to resolve issues quickly before they take on a life of their own and sweep uninvolved people up in its path. We need to check in on those issues to make sure what's resolved stays resolved so we can head off other issues from popping up that don't really need to become a conflict. It's important to make sure that we have time to build the team. A lot of companies spend a lot of money on team building when the team is in crisis, when there's been a fallout, when there's been something catastrophic that's happened in the team. And that's more of an intervention. Team building is something we do throughout the year when times are going great and when times are a bit of a struggle. And it can't become the flavor of the month, something that looks like we've done this to make ourselves look good or we've done this to cover up a problem that happened. That's often what happens in workplaces. And you can directly see how this does not promote trust and integrity. And so companies end up spending a lot of money and not getting the results they're looking for. So make sure that you're building your team throughout the year. So resolve issues quickly, build your team throughout the year, and take some time to be unplugged. Take your lunch breaks, your coffee breaks. Have time for the team to take breaks together. Those are some tips on building resilience. I want to thank you all for joining us on this webinar. I've promised you all copies of my ebooks, Bounce Forward. If you have not received that yet, please email me at charmaine@charmainehammond.com. You can also connect with me through my website or LinkedIn. And the other element I want to offer you is to please stay in touch. All year long, we do webinars, training sessions, and events for corporations and human resource professionals. So we'd love to have you join us on some of those. And I hope I get the opportunity to work with you and your organization sometime in the future. Again, all the best. Thanks. And it's Charmaine Hammond ringing off.